Smythe, an internet radio talk show where we help you connect spirit and divine guidance. Lisa Kay, your host, brings you shows that can enhance and transform your life with tips and new ideas for more happiness, abundance, and better relationships. Lisa is an expert on intuition and can show you how to strengthen your inner guidance to empower yourself. Each show is positive and uplifting to inspire your day. Her guest speakers are specialists on self-help, positive thinking, spirituality, and conscious living. Be the best that you can be with Between Heaven and Earth, Conscious Living for Your Soul.
And angel blessings to everyone. Our show today is called A Story of Letting Go and Love. At the age of 16, Kimberly Smythe gave birth to a beautiful baby girl and then had to give her up. The happiness she expected to feel when this child was back in her life never came. Kimberly's book, Letting Go Again, is a birth mother's courageous and compassionate account of giving up her baby for adoption and their troubled relationship once they are reunited almost 2 decades later. In her words, "I spent many years of my life wishing I had done things differently. What I have learned that there is no value in that. The most important thing I've learned is that it's okay to love from afar, and that letting go of expectations and accepting what is not failure. It is freedom." So Kimberly is here today to talk to us about all that she's learned and how we can find ways to love from afar and still be okay. Welcome, Kim. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks for having me, Lisa. Appreciate it.
Thank you for being here. So you got an interesting story. You know, there's always the fantasy, the fairy tale of, the children who are adopted want to find their parents, their mother. They want to know who they are, where they came from. This is sort of the reverse here, where, and I guess parents also want to find their children as well. But, and then, then they get together and it's sort of like, running together with the arms outstretched and love and just amazing, I guess that reuniting. But for you, it sounded like it didn't happen. So what happened there and how was it for you?
Gosh, what a journey. When my daughter, in Hawaii where I lived, at 18, you could send out your notice to the state and ask to find the records and find where your daughter was, and so, or your child. And I had been exposed to different stories around adoption. Not all of them were the happily ever after story, and I really had a need to know how my daughter had fared, and so my intentions when I first set out to say hello to her was for her to, if she was interested, to have an easy way of finding me. So that's all I wanted to know, is that if she was happy and healthy. And
was it hard to find her?
It took the state a bit to find her, and what they did was, I think it was probably 4 months after I sent them on her birthday a notice. And so they sent me a notice that said that they could forward a letter. So that's how it was done. So she could choose or not.
Okay. So that obviously they have a choice as to whether. So you did meet her. So obviously she said yes. Yeah.
She was in college when I finally was able to write to her, and it was great. I just like, cool, yeah, I'm over here, you're over there, let's have a conversation. And
now you were in Hawaii as well, right?
She ended up, I found out that she grew up in Hawaii as well.
So was she like kind of close by, but you didn't know you were in the same state?
We lived on different islands, though. So I've been to her island a few times. Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
So, and I always envisioned her far away because I found that if I thought she was close, I could just make myself kind of crazy. But anyway, I found out that she grew up in Hawaii, and I loved knowing that, because in Hawaii there's a great big feeling of family, or hana. And I thought that, wow, she grew up there. Maybe she has that open feeling about, inviting close friends and family into your inner circle. So we started writing back and forth. And as it turned out, she got ill and had to leave college. And my dream of having this happy, healthy daughter turned, and she went home, and they didn't know why she was having all these symptoms, and she was having hallucinations and stuff, and I didn't know her story completely, and so I worried about her, and I went from sitting back waiting to see what was going on to flying to her island and saying, please call me, I want to see you. So it had been like 4 or 5 months after she left college, and I just kind of showed up, and I met she and her parents, and they had just found out what was wrong with her. So here I was, meeting them, and you could see the relief on their faces, because they could share with me what was going on, and invited to go to Honolulu, where she was going to have surgery, and it was delicate, and they invited me, and I felt a big allowing in all of that. So I was very hopeful that, with that kind of foundation, we could go forward.
How emotional! That must have
other.
been incredibly emotional, though. I can just barely imagine.
Yeah,
we have. I think me being a mother, and I didn't. My child was with me, but it certainly, I think, even in the beginning, there's something biological. There's that connection that you have that I never thought about. And I used to think, oh, yeah, because you always hear mother's love is like nothing else. And I was like, yeah, sure. Until you have a kid, and as a mother. And then, I realized, and my mother always said to me, you have no idea how much I love you. Well, now I do. Yeah. Because I have a child. And so there's some connection. So even though you hadn't physically been with her, all that time, there's still that connection, even if it's, from your vantage point as a mother. So it must have been so difficult for you. I know it would have been for me, to hear that she was not well.
It was. And then, and the story continued where her mom passed away like a year and a half later. So she had, I had just met my daughter, who had suffered through the same kind of pain that I had, in a different way, done at a young age. So in a way, I had this knowing of what she was going through. But I also knew it was a tricky thing to find some way to help her, through her illness and the loss of her mother.
Two very, very traumatic things. I mean, gosh.
Yeah.
So what happened?
Well, a year, I guess, it's probably 2 years after I met my daughter, I was at her mother's funeral and trying to figure out how in the world I could, once again, help her, and feeling the strain of the complexity of my relationship with her, and her losing the only mother that she knew and loved.
It must have been so hard for you.
It was just very complex, the whole thing. And I think I realized at the funeral that without her mother's ongoing, blessings with us knowing each other, it was going to be a lot more difficult than I had imagined.
Mm-hmm. Well, there are a lot, that was kind of a tough thing for everybody to go through, right? Because, being ill and then losing your mom and then having your birth mother there, I can understand even at that age, it does funny things to you,
Yeah.
inside. It must be difficult for everybody.
Yeah, and as somebody who spent my whole life kind of feeling like an outsider and to be, into this throne, I willfully went into this complex relationship where I couldn't quite feel where my place was for
Sure.
many, many years. Yeah, it was quite a journey.
So what did you do? How did you came to terms with that sort of estranged relationship? What did you do? How did you cope with it?
You mean once I realized that we weren't going to have the relationship I was
Yeah.
dreaming of? When I first met my daughter, I kept thinking, well, I feel good about myself. I was really physically fit. I was happy. I was doing a job which I enjoyed. It wasn't real demanding, but, I had 3 kids that I adored and a wonderful husband who was starting on a journey of self-discovery himself. And my life felt really exciting. And going through this journey with my daughter, what I realized is that I thought my foundation was pretty solid. But when you go through something that tears at who you are and you're still carrying around guilt and shame and all those great things that we find to put in our back pocket of life, it was tough. It took me to a place that I didn't think I could ever get out of because,
Wow.
yeah, it just...
So it was like that personal transformation that, this
I
was
was...
your story, right? Going
Yeah.
through that
Yeah.
transformation. And, that in my mind is a very spiritual thing as well, and finding out about yourself and how to come to terms with your life and then move on. Well, we're going to have a break right now, and we'll come back and continue your very interesting story.
The Real Conscious Connection. Om Times Radio. IOM FM.
Dr. Kevin here, and I want to invite you every Thursday, 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern, to join me on the Dr. Kevin Show, where we have a diversity of guests who help you step outside the box, behind the curtain, and see what a load of crap is going on in the world today, so you have more information with which to make better decisions. We'll see you there. Namaste.
Being a radio host on IOM FM allows you to build your show on a rich platform with the power of the internet to fulfill your outreach goals and connect with a very specialized and global online audience, unlimited by time and distance. Om Times Radio will provide you with web relevance, a recognizable conscious brand, and with the standard of excellence that has accompanied every single Om Times endeavor. Host your show with Om Times Radio Network. The number one reason girls drop out of school in sub-Saharan Africa is lack of access to feminine hygiene products. The Pads for Schoolgirls Project, an outreach of Humanity Healing International, is changing this paradigm by setting up sewing programs at schools, teaching girls a vocational skill, while producing the reusable pads that help keep them attending classes. The girls pay it forward by making and giving pad kits to other girls in need. To learn more, visit humanityhealing.org. Humanity Healing is where your heart is.
If you've ever said, I do want it all. I do want happiness. I do want love. And I do desire the happily ever after fairy tale life, then this show is for you. Join me, Dana Nicole Brandon, for my internationally acclaimed show, Bridal Talk Radio, every Tuesday at 6 p.m. Pacific Time, where I'll bring you the top experts in the fields of communication, money, relationships, finance, pleasure, play, travel, sexuality, parenting, real estate, adventure, comfort, care, passion, and love.
A conscious lifestyle for a mindful life. Om Times Radio. IOM FM.
And welcome back. I'm Lisa Kay, and you're listening to Between Heaven and Earth. And I am here with Kimberly Smythe, and we are talking about her experience going through basically a love that's so close to your heart, and then being able to cope with it being afar from you. So, Kim, we were talking about your life and how your life was at the moment or at the time that you were reconnecting with this daughter that you had given up for adoption. And it sounds like it was a great life. You had, what you said, 3 kids, you had a husband, you had a family, and things were going well for you?
I had a dog too. Yeah.
A dog.
Yeah.
And so you had moved on. Yeah, obviously you gave your daughter up for adoption. You were very young at the time. And it sounds like you had the normal life. Go on to, you know.
I think when you have a wound as big as losing a child, I mean, and knowing that was my choice, you know, I mean, I don't know if I couldn't even imagine a place where I could come to peace with that for many years. So I just kind of trudged on through with my life and,
try to get to be
so
back
many
as
times.
normal as possible, and be normal. And I think, a lot of us do that. I think we have things in our life. Not, some people have things that are worse than others, but we all have these wounds, and some were in, obviously in your case, it was a big one. And we try to get back to normal, but there's always that little something underneath. And so in your case, so how did you just push it away and not think about it? Did you kind of, put into the recesses of your mind?
Yeah, I mean, I think people do what they know, and that's all I knew as a young adult. And what I found was, my 16-year-old self was pretty unwise in her decisions. And
well, you're very young. I mean, 16. Gosh,
Exactly.
I have a 17-year-old. I don't, let him. He wants to make decisions now. I was like, well, let me just double check, okay?
Yeah.
So, this is a huge one, and to have that all on your shoulders. Did you have support in making that decision, or was it something you did totally on your own?
Unfortunately, I didn't know the power of communication at that time.
Oh,
And
yeah. You were young,
Yeah. And
very
you
young.
do what you know, right? Especially when
And
you're that
you
young.
don't know that much. I mean, gosh, what do you know? I really
Exactly.
think, what do you know what do you know at 25? I mean, that would be a tough decision for anybody at any age, really.
Yeah.
So, that it sounds like, though, for you, you took a lot of that responsibility on and had to kind of live with that. How did that work into your life?
What I found through having to go back and really look at that young kid that I used to be was that she made her decisions based on everything that she knew in her life. And she really believed she was doing best for everyone she knew and loved. I loved the father. I didn't want him to be mixed into what I believed at the time. This is 1976. I was the bad girl. I was the one who got in trouble, quote, quote. And I was convinced that if he became a father his sophomore year in high school, it would destroy his life. And so
you took it all on.
I did, and I didn't want my parents to be the parents of the girl who got in trouble. And so I made up a big old lie about how I became pregnant. And so I built myself this big old box, and what I found after, I knew I wasn't prepared to be a mother. I knew my goodness, I was making,
Well, certainly you were not. I mean,
yeah.
I don't even know if we're prepared when we do become mothers.
It's true. I brought my next child home 7 years later and was terrified.
Wow.
Wow. So, and through life and realizing all the people that I had affected in my life and my daughter who I loved and tried to make the best, most responsible decision. And I felt all the pain that I felt I deserved and all those great things we do for ourselves.
Do you think you would have done it differently looking back now?
The shoulda, coulda, wouldas, I've learned to let go of because they kind of made me crazy for a while.
Well, I guess who knows, right?
Yeah.
You don't know. I mean, there's always pros and cons. So I think if you did, you could say, oh, well, if you did keep the baby, then, you would be together and you'd be the mother and have that relationship, maybe. But then again, as you were thinking even at that 16-year-old who had some wisdom there and said, how am I going to raise this child? So, I think a lot of people do that. I think, getting back to listeners and even myself, you look back and you analyze, that was something that was not good and I shoulda, woulda, but then it's it is what it is. And you have to, so when you let go, at what point were you able to really let that go? That shoulda, woulda, coulda?
Boy, that took me a really long time. There became a part of my relationship with my daughter where she moved to my town after she had graduated from college. And it was like the thing I always dreamed of, to have my daughter right down the road and be able to share my life with her. And it was not a very successful time for us. And so ultimately it took apart all the glue that I had, placed in what I thought was my good foundation. And what I found was that I needed to get help around this. And so I sought out a counselor, a spiritual counselor, and she was a beautiful, wonderful woman who kept trying to tell me, you need to go back to your younger self and find forgiveness about what you feel that me as a young child did to the older child, right? Like if only she had done it differently, if only.
Right.
And
so it's the forgiveness.
That was the forgiveness of self and finding that it is actually 100% possible to have self-love when you have something so big in your in your past.
Well, you took a lot of the responsibility on, right? That was one of the things that was like the cornerstone for you, was your feeling so responsible for what happened, for the father, for his parents, your parents, and everybody all around, and that seems to be the most important characteristic, or the biggest characteristic of who you were. And so then, then how do you cope with that? I think there are a lot of us out there who would be termed as, the nurturers, the ones who want to take care of everybody else. And that's kind of I think that's a good lesson. That's something good for everybody, no matter what you do, to say, hey, I have to forgive myself, or I have to say, okay, I do the best I can, at the time, no matter how old we are. And then what happens really, I think, is up to the universe, right?
And I think it's our responsibility to find happiness in our lives, even when we think what we have done is so huge that I thought I didn't deserve full happiness. I was kind of a voyeur in my life. I had loved
even
my
though you
children.
had a wonderful family.
There was a little part of me that felt like I wasn't worthy still. And those little judgments about yourself, they follow you. They don't just sit in the background. They're real. And I really had to really unwind all those things, all the negativities that I believed were mine. It's like almost saying to the world, yes, look how lucky I am. But there's part of me that's holding on to this. See, I know I deserve it, Yes. And I think a lot of us do that in our lives. And I really had to almost go to the depths to realize that it's my responsibility for my kids and for my husband and for myself to be the best self I can be. And so I went on this journey to find a way to unwind all of those thoughts and realize that, yes, it is possible. Even though I was not able to connect with my daughter, I was not able to help her in the way that I had hoped and dreamed I could. Mm-hmm. I realized that's her journey. And mm-hmm. that's the part of letting go that I'm talking about. Letting go of the fact that she's a beautiful, wonderful person, and she's got her own family now, and bless her. And maybe this time around, this is our time.
And they say that things happen for a reason. Yep. There's a bigger plan. The universe has a bigger plan for us. We don't know what that is, and that wherever we lie, that's where we're supposed to be. And that's okay. And that's always helped me. That's helped me a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. 100% agreed.
I like what you said, though, about, happiness, that you're responsible for your happiness.
I'm sorry, but what'd you ask?
I said, I liked what you said about that we are each responsible for our own happiness.
It's so true.
And I think,
we're supposed to be happy.
Yeah, I think we are. And I think we can be. And I think we can make a choice whether we're happy or not. And then also that's a way of being responsible and taking care of others, as I believe you just mentioned, that your happiness is also something that you're giving to your family, to your kids, to your husband. And I love that. Actually, that to me, that's a revelation in some ways.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I really do believe that.
That's great. So you've turned it around. You turned that whole thing of responsibility. I have to take care of everybody. Well, taking care of yourself, being a happy person, brings you back to being able to take care of other people. I love that. Well, we're at our next break already. So I'd love to come back and we'll talk more about, where you went from there after you've found out how to bring that happiness back. We'll be right back.
The cutting edge of conscious radio, Om Times Radio, IOM FM.
Do you have time to read that inspiring book or that blog post you've been meaning to get to? In your busy world, how do you improve yourself and keep your life going? I'm Lisa Kay, and my Between Heaven and Earth radio show can transform your life just by listening. Be uplifted with inspiring topics, positive stories, and ideas that really work. Between Heaven and Earth Radio is conscious living for your soul, every Wednesday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time.
Being a radio host on IOM FM allows you to build your show on a rich platform with the power of the internet to fulfill your outreach goals and connect with a very specialized and global online audience, unlimited by time and distance. Om Times Radio will provide you with web relevance, a recognizable conscious brand, and with the standard of excellence that has accompanied every single Om Times endeavor. Host your show with Om Times Radio Network. What if business could be fun? What if business is the adventure of living? What are you choosing? Where do you do business that makes it easier, more fun, or more joyful for you? We'd love to see where you do business. Connect with us on Instagram at Joy of Business or Twitter at Joy of Business. And share your pictures with hashtags BusinessDoneWhere and Joy of Business. Let's change the world with business.
Looking for inspiration?
Want to be inspired?
Not sure where to go?
Find Mark and Kim every Wednesdays at 3 p.m. Eastern on Inspired Living.
Topics will elevate consciousness and range from metaphysics to the human and social experience and all things spiritual.
Welcome to an inspired community that offers support, encouragement, and new ways of thinking. You are the inspired and the inspiration.
Connecting you with the best of the conscious minds in the world. Om Times Radio, IOM FM.
And welcome back. I'm Lisa Kay. and you're listening to Between Heaven and Earth. And we are at our half-hour mark, and we're going to do some announcements first, and then we'll get back to our guest, Kimberly Smythe. And so, Kim, your book is called Letting Go Again, correct?
Correct.
And where can people find that book?
They can reach it through my website, lettinggoagain.com, or Amazon.
Okay, great. That's wonderful. And that's the story, obviously the story we're talking about, letting go. I guess letting go and finding love, it sounds to me.
Yeah.
So, okay. So again, Kimberly's book is Letting Go Again, and you can get it on her website, lettinggoagain.com or amazon.com. And I believe you also wanted to talk about the Hanai Foundation. Is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah, Hanai Foundation is a foundation that I started. All proceeds from my book will go to the foundation, and ultimately, what it's a way for me to give back, and I really believe in that.
What's the foundation about? What do they do?
We basically support people who nurturers, organizations, and people that have nurturing at the crest of what they do. So ultimately what I want to do is to create a center and have a place where people can meet together and discuss life, discuss different ways of living, discuss their stories. Because I felt a big part of my growth has been in talking about my story, and it has been a beautiful unfolding of allowing other people to tell their story as well. And so I thought if there's a place, outside of...
To share the stories.
A multi-generational, non-denominational place where people just realize that we're more alike than different, and that we all have variations of different stories, and
that's wonderful.
Yeah.
Now, where can people donate or help the foundation? How do they get there?
On my website, I have a page on the Hanai Foundation. I'm currently looking for a piece of land, so we're going forward, and I'm so excited about that kind of. I just think it's time for people to unlock their doors and get to know their neighbors and come out and talk to each other and make sure the widow down the street doesn't need something from them.
Right. I think that's wonderful. What a wonderful foundation. That's great. Okay, so you can go to Kim's website at lettinggoagain.com and find out more about the Hanai Foundation and how to help them out. So I'm going to move on to our sponsor. We've got a sponsor for our show today, and this is from Erin Quijano, and she creates angel pendants, archangel pendants, and angels are found in almost every religion and culture. And Erin has been silversmithing since 2013, making all 15 archangels in sterling silver and their associated crystal affinity. And as she puts it, every angel I make by hand feels like a piece of love I am putting out to the universe. So if you are interested, you can purchase one of her pendants online at Etsy.com. Just type in Love Lapels, that's LOVELAPELS, no spaces, in the search box, and you'll find her, Erin Quijano, and her archangel pendants. And I wanted to move on and let you know about what I am doing. I'm going to be at the Body, Mind, Spirit Expo in Denver, Colorado. If you're out there, come visit me. Actually, and I need a little help if anybody wants to volunteer. I need one person to help me out there. So you can contact me at my website, lmk88.com, on my contact page. And let me know if you want to come and visit me or you want to lend a hand. What I'm going to be doing is I'll be the keynote speaker there at the Body, Mind, Spirit Expo, and I'll be talking about the key secrets to intuition and also doing some exercises with everybody and show you how to develop your natural intuition. So even if you think you are a little bit intuitive or maybe not, I will show you how to be intuitive and develop your intuition. And speaking of developing your intuition, I will be teaching in person the Developing Your Intuition Level 1 course in November. So I'm telling you early and telling you now because you can put it on your calendar. It's going to be held in Tarrytown, New York at the Doubletree Hotel. That's November 7th and 8th. It's all weekend. And you will be immersed in how to develop your intuition. You can get a certificate from that, being at that intense workshop where you'll be able to strengthen and hone your intuitive abilities, just like a muscle, so that you could get intuitive messages more consistently, tell the difference between a real intuitive message and when you're just making it up, and how to control your intuition so you can get messages about what you want to know and when you want to know it. So I go through all that. I've had a lot of students go through it, and they just come out of that weekend just doing amazing intuitive things and getting lots of great messages. And it's great. We have a wonderful group that gets together. I seem to attract wonderful students. So I invite you to that. And you can find out more about that on my website at lmk88.com. And also, if you sign up for my newsletter, you will get a free ebook on the beginnings of how to develop your intuition and exercises you can do at home to get your intuition boosted. So go there, lmk88.com. So let's go back to our conversation with Kimberly Smythe. We were talking about that transformation that you've gone through and how to, we were talking about happiness and how each of us is responsible for being happy, actually in a way to give to others. And so how did that work out for you when you had that realization? Did it change your relationship with your family? What changed in you, and how did that happen?
Oh, gosh. Like I said earlier, when I really got to a point where I realized I needed help, I went to my counselor, and it kind of set me on this road of self-discovery, because the more I talked about my story with her, the more I realized I was getting stronger in my voice, and I started searching out different other things to help me, like meditations and different, just exploring different things. And I found a teacher. I've been working with him for 8 years, and it's been a wonderful discovery of who I really am. And it's gone from, reactionary way of living where things would just, you always react to things, rather than that. You just observe things and you choose, then you act. Mm. And it's changed my life. And
is that kind of like a mindfulness thing?
It's called Mastering Alchemy. I don't know if you're aware of Jim Self. And I've been a student of his for, 8 years. And
so how did it transform you? What was it like before, and then how was it after?
I understood certain things that I needed to let go, but I didn't know how to do it. I didn't have tools. I didn't know
do you have an example of, say, it doesn't have to be personal, but do you have an example of something that a tool that you used? What were some of the tools?
Sure. There's so many tools. I think one of the easiest tools.
Pick your favorite one.
Yeah, it would be like just placing a rose out in front of you, right at the edge of your aura, and letting whatever is happening in your life that you're feeling negative about, just let it gather into the rose, and imagine the rose just disintegrating, or going into millions of different pieces, and basically sending the energy back to whoever it belongs to. And that's a beautiful one. I love that rose, that idea. And you can place it around you. You can do all kinds of stuff.
How did it make you feel afterward?
Exactly. It's just, I love the visualization about it. I love the, the freeing I feel from it, and it just escalates from there.
Really?
The work
So
that
you
we
do it over and over?
Yeah, you can continue doing that, or you find other tools that speak to you. Yeah, it's just.
Do you talk about those
magical
things in your book, or is that something that...
No, my book is not really
that's your next book.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
But getting to a point where I felt that I have a voice and to speak it has been such an empowering thing. And I really want to thank you for wanting to talk to me, because I think it's important for people to talk about things that are not real easy to talk about. Being a birth mother is not an easy
No, and
thing.
I can see, it's very difficult for you to talk about. I know that.
Yeah.
And so what's your words of advice for those of us who have things that are difficult to talk about? How do you do it?
Gosh, start the conversation.
And who do you start it with?
Yeah, somebody that you know and love, and it's non-judgmental. One of the biggest magical parts of my journey is when I share just with people that I knew for years, especially women, my story, and they'll tell me their stories about their miscarriages or their adoptions or their abortions or whatever it is in their past. They
was
felt like
the first person you talked to about it? I mean, obviously, I would assume that there is one. What was that? How did you get over that? I mean, I would imagine that first conversation was hard.
Well, it was with my husband to be. I mean,
I think that's one of the reasons why we have our significant others. Because we can. Those are the people that we can really open up and share those things with. We're actually going to go to another break in a few seconds, but I think that's a really important lesson, as you say, for all of us, is to be able to share those. And I guess that's why you have the Hanai Foundation. So when we come back, let's talk about how we can do that and open up our hearts and be able to expose the darkness.
Your conscious lifestyle on steroids. Om Times Radio. IOM FM.
What if living didn't have to be so serious?
What if you could move beyond your problems with greater confidence and ease than you've ever imagined?
Throw your labels out the window and join the Irreverent Therapist for practical tips and a very different way of approaching the changes you would like to create.
Marilyn Bradford
and Pam Hodling
have empowered hundreds of people to come out of self-judgment, quit looking to experts, and begin to create the lives they desire.
Join us Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern on the Irreverent Therapist Show.
Host your show on IOM FM, the radio network of Om Times Media, one of the more recognized brand names in the conscious community, and is backed by the extensive marketing reach of Om Times. Hosting a show on IOM FM immediately connects you with our extensive dedicated community. Om Times Magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment, a philanthropic organization. Their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. Om Times, co-creating a more conscious lifestyle.
Hello, I'm Miriam Knight of New Consciousness Review, inviting you to my new show where I interview the rising stars of the conscious awakening. We'll explore the many faces of consciousness and action and intriguing perspectives on life, the universe, and everything in between. Join us each Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern on the Rising Stars Show.
Bringing a more conscious lifestyle to your world. Om Times Radio. IOM FM.
And welcome back. I'm Lisa Kay, and you are listening to Between Heaven and Earth Radio on the Om Times Radio Network. And we are here talking to Kimberly Smythe about how we can open up, reach down deep inside, and transform ourselves by exposing the things that maybe we don't always want to talk about. Right, Kim? I wanted to ask you, you started to talk a little bit about how you transformed your life, or really were able to move forward from, having given up your daughter for adoption and the pain and all the guilt and the feelings of all that. You were able to get through that and work through that by sharing it with other people. And before the break started, you had mentioned that the first person you talked to was your husband, or your to-be husband. And how was it for you to start that conversation? What were the feelings you were going through? What prevented you originally from talking about it to other people?
Oh, it's kind of interesting because I think when you have something like that in your past and you fall in love and you know that there's a future with somebody, it's such a raw part of your life that it kind of has to come out in a way, at least for me.
Sure. Were you afraid?
I think there was a necessity for him to know who I really, all about me.
Yeah, were you afraid of his reaction?
He has been such a gift to me. He has been like the most non-judgmental, just wide open heart person I could ever imagine being, attached to in my life. And he has taught me so much about that and about self-love. And I don't know why I was so blessed, but that was my first blessing after the tragedy, the terribly hard thing that I had gone through. So, I've been so blessed, really, truly.
How did it go for you when you finally let it out and told him?
Well, I cried. It was something that was just very. It's a wound. I think people have no idea how deep it goes, and I didn't know how I was ever going to find love, and then to fall in love with somebody and realize that there is hope after some loss like that. I don't, unfortunately, in our society, there aren't good choices for teenagers, and there's lots of different stories around.
I think what you said is important, that we feel like, especially when we have such a deep love for somebody else, whether it be, a significant other or whether it's, the child, then you lose it, then you wonder, right, how am I going to ever have that love again? It sounds like your experiences helped you realize that it can happen. It's a good example for other people. And so once you spoke to him about it, was it easier to talk to others? And if so, who did you share it with, and what was it like?
No, I didn't really share it with. Obviously my family knew about it, but we really didn't discuss it because actually my brothers didn't know about it till right before they met their niece. So 18 years later. So. Adoption is a very complicated story to have in your life, and it's a difficult one. And I just think that it's when I first went to meet my daughter, it was 1995, and I went to the biggest library in Honolulu, and I looked for clues. Somebody tell me what this is. How am I supposed to walk through this? And I probably would have been well served to continue my search, but I kind of just tried to be myself and think of my daughter as my daughter, and what can I do for this child?
So you
even
went to
though,
the library and you didn't find any information
no,
on
there
what,
was
how to do, what to do when you're going to,
exactly,
when you've
yeah,
lost it, when
yeah,
you've
because
given
I
your child
knew,
up for adoption and then you want to go find them again.
yeah, and I
And,
wanted to be
do you feel that your
sensitive.
book is that book that you were looking for?
The cautionary tale. No, I think my book is a testimony that you can jump into something and maybe be ungraceful but have the best intentions, and what I found through my work spiritually and within is that because I had been told many times, if you go back to the part of your life where you felt like there's a turn that you can't get back to, like, oh, I made this turn here, I did this, and this is, how my life went this way. It went sideways. And so if you went really back there and just took away all the other images, but what your true intentions were, and my intentions were to do the best for my daughter and for everyone around me, and I've learned to let go of all the other ones, which I felt were mine, but weren't, then I can continue my life and realize that, oh yeah, you did the best you knew how, like you said earlier. And I think that's all we have, is just to come to a place of peace with that and let things lay as they will. And
So how's your life now? I mean, I know, you said you're married. I know you've got kids. You have 4 kids, right?
I do have 4 kids.
Plus your other daughter.
Well, she's my daughter.
So you have 4, including her.
Yeah.
So you 3.
Yeah. 3 of whom call me mom. How's that?
Yeah. And how's your relationship with your kids? The 3 that call you mom.
Oh, awesome. I have the best kids ever. And that was another hard part when I was trying to connect with my daughter. I went through, depression. I went through all these hard things to go through when your kids are in high school and they need your attentions probably even more than when they were little. And, that was another part of it that I had to come to terms with and realize, sometimes it's bumpy, and that my kids are awesome. And, they have taught me more than I could ever teach them. I really believe.
And how did they react to all this? How did they say? What did they do?
They were, I think, like 8, 10, and 12 when they learned they had another sister. And that was a difficult conversation for me.
Yeah, it must have been.
Minus my husband, I really hadn't talked about my daughter because I just didn't feel like I had anything to talk about. I mean, this was my wound, This was my loss.
So how did you talk to them about it? What did you do?
I just
did you tell them all at once? Did you one at a time?
No, I did. I sat them down, and my husband and I just told them about their half sister, and it was difficult for me. It was difficult because did you time it all? Well, I know that you decided that you wanted to go find your daughter who was put up for adoption. But was there a time, did you decide, okay, now I can tell them, or was it you had to tell them at that time because of circumstance? Well, I thought about them growing up knowing about it, but 3-year-olds ask you those crazy questions, but Mom, I don't understand. Why don't you know where my sister is? I mean, I couldn't, couldn't bear that. It was just too difficult. So once I got in touch with her and I knew there was a possibility that they would actually meet her, and they did meet her shortly thereafter, that's when I...
And how did they react? What was it like?
The initial conversation, the daughter I raised, she had a hard time with it. And, ultimately the story and my writing it has brought my daughter that I raised so close, and my sons as well. I think when people open themselves out to their vulnerabilities, it opens an allowing that wasn't there before. There's no...
I guess you're not protecting it anymore because people know. You don't have to hide.
Yeah.
Right? There's a release.
I think people die without people knowing who they are, and it's a shame.
Right. And so how is it? How does that make you? What does that make you feel?
What part of it? I'm sorry.
The part of not having to hide it anymore.
Oh my gosh. I recommend this tremendously. I think, people that I know that they've read my book, they say, "Oh, my mom was adopted." It opens up conversation. I know my daughter's natural family, and their family has been able to open up conversation by reading the book. It's just been such a miracle for me. It's been such a beautiful allowing of so many people. It feels like a miracle to me.
Yeah, I guess I think it's maybe in a way adoption or that whole thing, having a child that you have to let go of in that way is sort of a taboo thing. But I think that's really more what we're talking about here, is that what we perceive other people are thinking, or what we think about it, and then finding out that that's it's not a terrible thing. It's not something that we should be ashamed of, and that to let go of that burden and then be free of that, and then find out that other people have gone through it as well is very transformative.
Mm-hmm. And that's the reason that I named my foundation the Hanai Foundation. The Hanai means it was an ancient Hawaiian way of adoption, and it was all in love and allowing. The grandparents would often Hanai a grandchild to raise as their own.
I think that's wonderful.
Yeah.
Hey, listen, I got to stop you because we're at the end of our show already.
Okay.
I'm sorry, but it was great having you on. Those of you out there, if you want to get the book, go to Kim's website, lettinggoagain.com. Kim, thanks for being on the show. It was great having you.
Thanks, Lisa.
Thank you so much. You've been listening to Between Heaven and Earth, Conscious Living for Your Soul. Tune in next time right here on Om Times Radio.